my calling, my purpose of being a human being is to be the greatest basketball player I could be. I mean, that's the reason why I'm alive at this point. So I gotta lock in on every aspect of the game and become great at it. And I'm still working.
KD got up there and said that the group that was in there near the end of the third, I think they closed on like a 14-6 run to get it down to 12 or 14, something like that. That was what, in his mind, helped shift the game. So you got to give credit to those guys for it was very subtle, only outscoring your opponent by 8 points over a stretch there. It's not going to turn anyone's head when you're down by 20 plus.
Right.
But it did help kind of crack the door open a little bit. And then KD being able to guard Sabonis was monumental down the stretch because he was slicing and dicing them all night. He had a triple-double. He was great. He's an all-star. And KD was able to handle that physicality and basically not just guard Sabonis, but switch out onto perimeter guards and stop them as well.
It was hilarious. I think one of my favorite comments last night was somebody was like, they went small with KD at the 5 and Sabonis just completely forgot how to play basketball.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I was like, but honestly, like, shout out to KD for that one.
Yeah.
But as well, you bring up his defense, Gerald, you talked about it as well. KD has fully embraced playing defense for this team. Here's what he had to say about offering himself up on that end.
I offered myself up this summer when we were having conversations about how we wanted to play. And I told Coach, I told James, Josh, like, my job is to be a lockdown defender. Obviously I'm not going to be perfect every night, but to go out there and trust that I can go out there and make life tough for the opposing players, that's a part of my job description. That's a fine. I'm long, athletic, I can move, I'm experienced. Why shouldn't I be held accountable to play top line defense against anybody in the league? Like I said, I'm not saying I'm stopping everybody, but I think I can make life tough for any player in the league. And there's some great players out here, but I feel like I can just play hard and use my length and my attributes to make life tough. And I want those assignments. So coach has been trusting me, coaching staff been trusting me even more. I know I'm getting older. I think that's probably why we didn't see this a little earlier in the season. But it's just about showing and proving. I proved to the coaching staff that I can do it, and they'll trust me more and more. And I get more opportunities like that.
First of all, man, shout out to Kevin Durant, man. I mean, what he's done in these last 4 games, the challenges on defense. The other night against Portland, I went back and looked at that tape. And he was chasing Simons all over the damn floor, okay? Now, I wondered this. I went home, and I was actually in my head, I'm saying, what did Kevin do that stopped Sabonis from being Sabonis? Because he was being so physical. He was attacking at will. And I'm thinking Kevin Durant physically is nowhere near Nurkic. How did that happen? And when I went back and looked at it, man, it just shows sometimes it's about effort and it's about what's between the ears. He didn't take the pump fakes. He used his length and verticality. He said, you're stronger than me, but I know that you like to use your pump to get into a lot of your things. I'm going to sit on that. I'm going to make you shoot over me. And if you want to get real physical, then I'm going to put you in a spot where I may take a charge or I may have you in your head. So Sabonis started taking fadeaway jumpers. And I'm looking, I'm saying, that's a guy that's been in the league. That's a guy that knows the game. And that's a guy that can go in the locker room now and say, yo, guys, like, we can do this. Like, we can do this. If I can go out there and be that guy, y'all can step up and do things on another level. So that's why KD's KD, and that's why he's on my Mount Rushmore, man. That guy's just got it between the ears.
It's just infectious when he plays that way, and we've seen and criticized the other side of it when, the transition defense isn't there or when the body language is bad. But when it's like that, you see the effect it has on everybody else, the way it lifts everybody up. And he had mentioned, to your point about defending Sabonis, like his goal, he knows that Sabonis is physical. So he said, I tried to play him with physicality and push out where he was getting his catches further away from the basket. Wow. He was saying he likes to just hold the ball like this and let guys cut every which way and throw passes and get his triple doubles. But I was just trying to get up into him, put some pressure on him force him to be a little bit uncomfortable. And you could see the way it threw off the Kings' entire offense in that stretch with the small ball lineup. So he knows the game so incredibly well. Yeah. And the fact that he was able to do that in a game where, let's be honest, most of us, including maybe some of the players, thought it was already over. That was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I loved it. But I want to give Frank Vogel a little credit for going to that look, because after going up against Nurk for a majority of that game, it was such a vastly different defensive look, and utilizing KD's length and that IQ disrupted Sabonis enough, because he kind of got in that rhythm and knew what he could get from Nurk, and it changed in that fourth, and that was just enough to kind of get them unsettled. And it snowballed, like we were talking about, because they had just went through playing a game against the Bucks and having all sorts of issues in that fourth. So I think Vogel deserves a lot of credit for making the adjustment. Now, is it a long-term adjustment? No, I don't think you're going to, but it was the right adjustment in that moment, and I think you could see it in different situations.
I was going to ask you that, and Gerald and Lynn, all of you guys, we saw the lineup of Book, Beal, Grayson, Gordon, KD, right? I'm starting to wonder if that isn't something that you go to in spurts every game. Like, I know matchups is matchup based, and sometimes, but like it gave me a little bit of a feel of the old Steve Nash 7 seconds or less. I remember going into that season and everybody saying, well, where are these guys going to play? You can't play Joe Johnson and Quentin Richardson and Steve Nash all together. Sean Marion's too small to be a 4. Mari's too small to be a 5. And eventually they were like, no, that's what we're going to do. And something sparked quick and they ran with it. I'm not saying you can do that long term, but I'm starting to question if that's how you get to the 43 pointers that KD wants, right? If you go out there and you pump that lineup in 5, 6, 7 minutes a game, spread it out, and allow these guys to just spread the floor and be demons at the 3-point line. If you can get 35 to 40 shots a game, man, this team's going to be really tough to beat.
Well, and I think it might answer your question of who's going to play the 5 when you're playing athletic guys. Maybe KD can spell some of those minutes. He's not going to play them all, but he can be an option. Maybe you turn to that unlocks things on the other end of the floor.
And it kind of goes back to what I said last night, and why I keep talking about reps is like, this is a perfect opportunity to try out a different lineup, and that's why we keep beating this dead horse about having different reps and different lineups and having all your guys available. It's so you can try shit like that. Like, obviously last night worked out in a historic way that none of us were expecting. I'm not going to say that's going to be what it is every time Vogel tweaks a lineup.
Yes, it is, Gerald.
But like, this is why you have the regular season, so you can experiment with these things. The Suns haven't had those same opportunities. So last night was a very positive sign that, like, in a pinch in the playoffs, if you're up against a team that has that same type of free-flowing offense, go small, switch everything, and you know that KD can log some minutes as a small ball 5. That's huge to know ahead of time.
Yeah. Going back to KD's defense, though, I think the reason why maybe we get on him so much when things get a little bit heavy for this team is because we know that this is what happens when KD chooses to do what we know that he can do and lead this team in that way, because like you said, it's infectious. Like, these guys all look up to you and have for their entire lives. So as you go, this team goes, you know, and the same can be said about a lot of guys on this team, especially within that big 3. But KD, especially, I think, as he goes, this team goes when it comes to energy, setting the tone defensively. And I think that's a very selfless thing for KD to take on this season as well. And he also talked about what fuels his drive to be a good defender.
What fuels? I mean, the purpose of being a human being is to be the greatest basketball player I could be. I mean, that's the reason why I'm alive at this point, you know. So I got to lock in on every aspect of the game and become great at it, and I'm still working.
I thought his calling purpose was be a fashion icon. He's stealing Lindsay's look. So.
That's a bar, though.
I mean, right? KD has so many lines. When he retires, somebody needs to go back there. You should probably start now because there's probably a lot of them and supercut all of like those one-off lines. It's just like, damn, okay, KD, tell him like it is.
Let's just auto-tune it and create a whole album. I think you know people.
Let's get Weezy on the phone, man.
Low key, I know KD's in the music scene. Like they should drop these in throughout songs.
No, like
that's not a terrible idea.
I see it all the time. These little skits.
Just make sure if you use that, throw me my phone, okay?
There you go.
Put them on the prelude. My purpose in life is to beat everybody's ass because I'm Kevin Durant. I love it, yo. Let's do it. Yeah, I love it.
Tell me that wouldn't work out well. But so KD, just listen. Defensively, what he has done for this team in this last handful of games, even the Clippers game where he told Book and Beal, like, hey, don't worry about me. I'll get myself involved. I'm going to take on this incredibly tough defensive assignment. That's going to be important for this team because just his leadership in that area, again, I say it multiple times, but it's so infectious, and this team needs to play better defense. We've been harping on that all season. So, KD, please be our savior. Make this team play defense.
Yeah, it's interesting that he mentioned kind of the trust thing from the coaching staff as well, because he's 35 years old. You don't want to put those extra stresses on him. But over the last 4 games, we've seen him take a sacrificial role on offense. I would like to see him a little bit more involved later, earlier than the fourth quarter when he got the majority of his shots. But defensively, it's been Kawhi, it's been LeBron, it's been Simons, like you mentioned last night, Sabonis. And just the fact that he feels that I am a lockdown defender, like use me in that way if you need me to. That's incredible from your superstar, who's your best offensive player and one of your oldest significant players on the team.
Yeah, I mean, and the eye test and the stats show how effective it's been. I mean, what LeBron have, 10? The other night. Simons was 11 of 31. I believe we saw what he did to Sabonis in the fourth. He's taking on the challenge, but he's also delivering too. Because a lot of guys can talk the talk. He's actually backing it up with, at least in the last 3 games, really lockdown defense.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's early. This could be. I mean, this might be his best defensive season. Like, but if he continues to do this, I mean, will you be shocked if he gets all NBA defensive votes?
I think the Suns are going to have to climb the standings because I wish that they would expand to 3 all defensive teams. It's dumb that we have it for pretty much everything else except for defense. But I do think like his Warriors seasons were really good defensively, and those were on top 5 defenses. So the Suns have some work to do as a team because voters aren't going to give it to a guy who's on a subpar defense.
Well, there you go. You hear that, Suns? Don't let KD down.
Rise to the challenge.
Step up, bro.